There's good and there's bad about Kyle Pitts. What do you want first? I'll tell you. The good is that among tight ends with 30 or more targets, Kyle Pitts finished as the tight end 8 in PFF receiving grade. And he finished as tight end 11 back in 2021 in fantasy points per game. He did finish as tight end 22 this year in fantasy points per game. We saw a couple ceiling games against Seattle in week 3. He finished as the tight end 6, 13.7 PR fantasy points, 5 for 87, 160 air yards. And then week 8 against Carolina, 5 for 80 and a touchdown, 63 air yards. But what is even more interesting is in week 9 against the Chargers, he only went 2 catches for 27 yards, but he had 209 air yards. 209 air yards. Holy buckets. And then he followed that up in week 10 against Carolina again, 2 for 28, but 97 air yards. It's that his quarterback sucked. He finished the last 5 games of the season with 5 or more targets. And 3 of those games, 7 or more targets. Kyle Pitts is still the tight end that you want him to be. Right now, underdog, he's being drafted as the tight end 4, which I still don't think I can get behind. You're going to be drafting Travis Kelce. You're going to be drafting TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, Mark Andrews. I think you're pumping him to 5, maybe Goddard to 6. Okay. I do like Goddard for what it's worth because Goddard this year was tight end 4 in PFF grade. For those asking at home, who was ahead of Kyle Pitts in PFF receiving grade among tight ends? Well, Kelce was 1, Okonkwo was 2, Kittle 3, Goddard 4, Andrews 5, Njoku 6, and Freiermuth 7. And just behind Pitts was Hooper, Waller, and Akins and Gerald Everett. And Hawkinson was 13th. But Kyle Pitts fits like in that tier. The problem is that if we don't see a significant shift in quarterback improvement, we could be set up for another disappointing year. If you like the content and find it helpful, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. You need to be waiting on tight end, and Kyle Pitts is not the type of tight end. I think he's a trap tight end. He's the Dalton Schultz of this past year, right? Like, he is a good player on his own. He has good talent. He has extreme athleticism. But he's being priced wrong in drafts. And if you draft him, you're losing out on significant draft capital for what you are needing from other positions, right? Kyle Pitts this past year, only 8.5% of the time scored 12.5 point PR fantasy points. And yes, that was tight end 19 in rate. But for those counting at home, Kyle Pitts was 20th in fantasy points per game and half. So it's that we need to see a quarterback improvement pretty significantly to justify tight end 4. Do you have confidence? I don't have confidence with the way that Atlanta had been nibbling at quarterback this past year after drafting Kyle Pitts 4th overall, after drafting Drake London 8th overall. But then the Falcons come back and nibble with Mariota and then draft a nibble with Desmond Ridder. Come on. Like, we need to see a Derek Carr there, or we need to see a Lamar Jackson there, or we need to see a significant tier jump upgrade to be able to justify Kyle Pitts being drafted. His ADP right now is 65th overall in the way too early drafts. That's way too early for me. It's either Kelce or it's bust for me, and I'm going to let other people for right now draft all of the Kyle Pitts. I just can't get behind that value, that return on investment, when if you want to be winning your leagues, you either need to be waiting and hoping you hit on like an Okonkwo and a Taysom Hill and some, because you're not going to hit on a Kyle Pitts, or the chances are that you're not going to hit very well. And the only chance that the only player who returned tight end value for you this year was Travis Kelce, who was a first-round pick, an early second-round pick. And now Kelce's getting drafted in like the top 6 of picks. So my recommendation is I need to see Kyle Pitts' ADP fall significantly. Like, we're talking rounds and rounds for me to be comfortable taking him. And even then, I don't know if it's worth it for what draft capital I'm investing based on the what the coaching staffs have done to address the quarterback position in Atlanta. I can't get behind it. I'm not a fan of it. Give me David Njoku at tight end 7 at virtually the same type of player, an extreme athleticism type of tight end. At least we've seen David Njoku do this a few other times in his career where he's had huge explosion games, extreme athleticism games. Like, give me David Njoku at tight end 7 at value over Kyle Pitts at tight end 4 at value.